Marcus Allen. So I'm actually originally from Houston, Texas, born in Philadelphia, but been in Houston after that, and then went to college in Louisiana. Got my first job in Dallas, Texas. Lived in Dallas, Texas for 23 years, and then recently moved back to Houston probably two and a half years ago. We're just your ordinary Texas family. We're divided in the household because I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. Everybody else, I think they're the Texans fans or something like that. But pretty generic, wholesome type family. I ran track and played football, high school, even ventured to play a little bit of college ball. I was a walk-on my first year, didn't make the team. Was a walk-on my second year, did make the team. Funny story. I was on the team and they told me, hey, you're on the team now. And I called my dad and said, hey, look, I made the team. And he's like, okay, what number are you? I said, well, it depends because before the game, they'll issue me a number. But I won't travel with the traveling team either. Dad says, you're practice squad. So I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. I was kind of like practice squad. So again, I made the team, but it was really practice squad. So after that second year, I hung up my college aspirations of playing football. Ran track, did very good there. We had a record for the sprint relay that lasted probably about 8 years. So I had a lot of accomplishments there, and then football too. Just a lot of fun. I was a corner, defensive corner in high school and in college. My dad was actually, I want to say in 68 or 69, he went for the Olympic trials. My dad was a phenomenal sprinter. He also went to Southern University, which I went to as well. But Dad was always healthy, even to this day. At the age of 80, my dad wakes up and works out a minimum of 4 days a week and goes to the gym. So he's a very healthy guy, and I took that from him. My grandmother on my mother's side was the Rock. She was a beautiful lady, about 4'11", but could tackle a lion, but very strong-willed. She used to read Bible stories to us when we were little. We were like, 5, 4. We'd go stay with her, and every night that was what we looked forward to. She would just read a Bible story or tell us a Bible story. And along with that, and when she passed, my mom kind of took over the reins, and Mom was very instrumental in making sure we had our own relationship with God. Mom used to tell us that when we got to be older, we could drive cars, and in high school, the rule was if you didn't go to church on Sunday, and you go wherever you want to go, whatever church you want to go to, but if you didn't drive yourself to church or didn't take yourself to church on Sunday, then you did nothing at all. You stayed in the house. You don't go anywhere. So it's kind of like her way of incentivizing us to act on our own to go to church. But Mom had a lot of neat little rules like that to get us motivated and stay in tune with the church. It was actually probably about a year after Cecilia was born. I always battled with a little bit of hypertension. So I was on medications, and then I would, being young at that age, I would not always pay attention to it. And I met a doctor friend of mine who was a hypertension specialist. So I went to him, very nice guy, almost like a father figure. He noticed that my liver enzyme counts were off the charts, and he insisted that I would go to a specialist. And once I did that, then that started the process. And within a couple of months, they came back and told me I had a very rare liver disease. It's autoimmune. It's PSC, primary sclerosing cholangitis, is the liver disease that I was diagnosed at. It was difficult, At the time, my oldest child, my son, was 2.5. My daughter was, my oldest son has been 3. My daughter was 2. And, I had the whole world, had everything in front of me to go through and to handle. And now I'm processing this, that, okay, what is this liver disease? What do you mean I have it? What does that look like? And at the time I was in pharmaceutical sales and I had a lot of doctor friends. So I was able to go and talk to them and say, hey, what is this? What do you think about this? And the looks on their face was not pleasant. Most of them were like, oh, this is serious, you know? And I can even remember I read one medical journal that said people with PSC would either get a liver transplant or they would die. Those are the two options. And they even had an equation one time that you could put yourself on the equation, how much you weigh, how long you've had it, where's your diagnosis at this point, all these tests that they could run, and then they could predict how long you would live. And I went to one of my doctors and asked him to do that, say, can we do these tests? And he refused. And he gave me good advice. He's like, whatever you should be doing in life, do it. Nobody has an expiration date. I'm not going to take the time to do all this because that doesn't mean that's when you're going to expire. But whatever it is that you're searching to do it now. And that was good advice. Live your life and do it now. Fear of the unknown, fear of being sick, being sickly, not knowing exactly what all was entailed. Liver transplant patients or transplant patients, period. 20 people pass per day waiting for an organ. That's crazy. But those were the odds, and those are the type of things I would think about. But then I made sure I focused on the future and didn't dwell on a lot of the negative. I've always had a good support system. My family has always been there for me. The good thing is, in the beginning, there was not a lot that we needed to do. Monitor, take medication, and live my life. Support system was good. Mother was still alive at that time. And everybody gave me a lot of good spiritual and moral support. So later on, let me back up just a little bit. So when I initially got diagnosed, they told me that it would probably be 2 years before I would need a transplant. Well, I was blessed enough to make it for 14 years. So 14 years later, I started getting really, really sick. And it was almost like the wheels fell off. I was traveling a lot for work. I was no longer in pharmaceutical. I was in medical device, early in the morning, late at night. And I just started thinking, okay, I just can't eat this food. I have to watch my diet. I have to watch what I'm doing. And that's when I had to realize that, okay, my body is changing. Something's going on. I went back to the doctor and he told me, he said, Marcus, you've lost 85% of the function of your liver. We need to get you on the liver transplant list. That's the next step. He said, I can do nothing else for you. You need to go talk to the transplant specialist. So that's what I did. And that was very scary. So what happened is, as I'm going through this and I'm learning more and I'm getting sick and I'm really realizing that, okay, this is going to happen. I'm getting sick. This is going to happen. I've got to do something. At the time, we lived in Dallas, and I went to church at Covenant Church in Carrollton. And I was always active in the church, and I actually went to one of the pastors and said, hey, look, this is what's going on. And his words to me is like, well, what's your relationship with God? And I'm like, I'm here, I'm praying. What do you mean, what's my relationship? But what he meant is that, how deep are you? Are you shallow? Is it just a surface relationship? Because what I was going to go through, he knew that I need deep roots. I need to dig deep. So that's when I started my reading. I started my watching TV, and that's when I saw Pastor Joel, and I would listen to his message and say, okay, this inspired me. And then things that he would talk about, I would go back and read. So that started a almost daily process of reading and meditating and preparing myself mentally, physically, and spiritually for the battle that was coming. I'm sitting there and thinking, okay, what else can I do? And I'm praying and meditating, and they talked about the leadership class. And I said, wow, okay, that sounds real interesting. That's exactly what I need. I'm a very structured type person. I like structure. So I went to find out more about it, and they had the course class where you could take a 6 weeks course, and then they had the actual internship. And I said, well, okay, well, let me find out about both. I found out about both and said, well, this internship program is going to be hard. I just started a new job. I've got a lot on my plate, but I felt inspired. I felt God said, okay, go for the higher. This is what I need you to do. I need you to go for the highest opportunity and learn more. If you don't qualify, because I know everybody that applied didn't get in, then I could go for the classes. So that's what inspired me after listening to it in church, and I was like, okay, I need to do this, and I was fortunate enough to get in. So not only was it the day that we graduated the internship class, but June 27th was the day that I went in for surgery. The 22nd was my birthday. The 27th was the day I was actually admitted into Baylor Hospital in Dallas, Texas, and went in for surgery. It was going to be a 6-hour surgery and then, start the process of healing. Unfortunately, things went left. They went really bad. I wound up being in a medically induced coma for a week, and I was in dire straits. I was in a spot where they didn't know if I was going to make it or not. The things they shared with my family was that, number one, the transplant was successful after the surgery only for about 6 hours. For whatever reason, my body started clotting and cut off the oxygen and blood supply to the new organ. With that being said, I had no liver whatsoever. Your body can only be maintained for 72 hours before it starts that cascade and you shut down and you're no more. So they told my family that if he doesn't have a heart attack, if he doesn't have a stroke, if we can stop the blood clots, and if we can find a liver in 72 hours, he has a chance of making it. This is my mini me. So, like I said, this is my mini me. I heard that she didn't leave my side. She couldn't drive. She was too young to drive at the time, but she had somebody take her every day. And knowing the type of person that she is, that means a lot to me, and it speaks a lot to her character. What I appreciate most is the people that surrounded me with prayers. I had churches that, after I made it, churches that called and said, we were praying for you. There's a little church in Lubbock, Texas that I worked with the guy. His son was a pastor in Lubbock, Texas, and they sent me a card because they were praying for me. It was a community effort, and my family was there. Like I said, my daughter never left my side. I don't think I could have made it without that support and without God's grace and mercy and allowing me to make it through that window.
I would say we're definitely pretty close. He said it a few times. We are like each other's match. I think we kind of mirror each other in a lot of different ways, both in the level that we like to compete at and like just the way that we strive for our goals in day-to-day life. And so I think if there's anybody I would look to for ideas or advice or just help in trying to reach success, he's always my go-to. We didn't know about his liver condition, or at least I didn't in any capacity, until it was like game time. So I think I was 15, 14?
14.
Yeah.
14, 15.
It was a big pill to swallow, and like I said, I think at that point it becomes a whirlwind. Like there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on. At that point, we have to like really put our game faces on, and I think everybody around him is ready to, like, it's just okay, we're gonna have to fight this, if this is a part of life and this is what we're gonna do. So there wasn't a lot on my mind other than fear and readiness to compete, to fight. and make sure that we come out on top as a family. Going on, I knew I just wanted to see him. I just wanted to lay eyes on him, hold his hand, and pray for him. And so, like he said, whoever I could find to get me to the hospital, my brother, my mom, I think I had a best friend drive me up there on several days. The car rides were silent, and I was just, okay, these are the things I have to pray for. This is what I'm going to say when I see him. Whether he can hear me or not, I'm going to hold his hand, I'm going to pray for him, and I'm going to make sure he knows, like, I'm there. So, and I think there was a time where he didn't want me to see him in the state that he was in. And so I stopped coming, like, to bedside to be with him. But even from the lobby, I remember one time I took a nap, like, under a chair in the lobby. And from there, at like 14, 15, I'm just praying. And, just whatever I can to make sure that God's presence is felt in the situation, and also that, like, he felt me at his side. It was so hard because I think from the outside looking in, you think, like, why wouldn't you want to know that people are here, But also, like, I understand that as a father, it's very different. Like, you don't want somebody to see, this is not the last image you want a child to have. And so it took me taking a step back and just kind of, like, going back to our family that was waiting that day and talking to my mom and them kind of explaining a different perspective to me, to where I was like, okay, well, he can kick me out of the room, but he's not going to get rid of me. I'm still going to come here every day, whether he knows it or not. I think we're both strong-willed in that way. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do the next best thing, God's timing has just been so divine and so purposeful in absolutely everything that we've done, both as a family and just, like, with you as an individual. There have been times where we don't know what's next. We don't know what we're going to do. There have been times where we can see, like, feel that we're at the bottom of a hill, like, we're looking up and we know we're going to have to fight through a lot, whether it's the liver transplant or just things that happen in day-to-day life. And one thing that he's always been super consistent on is saying, like, we're going to fight, but we're going to be okay. God's plan is better than our plan. Like, all these little mantras that he's spoken over, like, my life and his life and just us as a family, it has always worked out, And faith has always been his biggest thing. That's one thing that you've for certain taught me.
It's all about faith. It's all about, because we had to focus on the future, whatever that future looked like. And I had to have faith, and I walk like I was going to make it through. I wouldn't let anybody say anything that opposed that. And anytime those thoughts would overcome my mind, I would reinforce it with faith. It is with her, my son, that's what we stand on, because we literally had nothing else. I mean, the chances of finding a liver within 72 hours, because I have none. I have no liver. That's when you stand on faith, and then God delivers. Mm-hmm. And then the process even afterwards, I was in the hospital for 3 months after that, and we had hiccups there. We had major hiccups there. That was all about faith. I share this with you. A month after I had the transplant and I was quote unquote recovering, I developed a saddle blood clot, which actually sits on the connection between the heart and the lung. It's 95% fatal. 95% fatal, and a hospital administrator caught it. I was standing up and starting to shave, and he's like, you're breathing really heavy. Tired, I'm recovering. He's like, no, we need to check it out. Had he not done that, it's another opportunity I could not have made it. But it's faith like that I don't have to do it. God will bring me a daughter that sits by my side. He'll bring me a hospital administrator that can figure out something's wrong and demand that I take a blood test and find out I had a blood clot. His faith helped us through this.
I think even your surgeon prayed with us.
Yes.
Prayed with us before the transplant and then saw to it that she got the new liver. Like she went with them to go get it, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, she sent somebody else to get it, but yeah, she was definitely a woman of faith.
Mm-hmm.
She was originally not a part of my surgical team. She asked to be brought on. She literally called me and said, hey, look, I had met her before. She says, hey, because it requires 4 doctors. The initial transplant, I had a living donor, which was actually my brother-in-law. So we took a portion of his. He required 2 doctors, and then they took mine out completely. I had 2 doctors. Dr. Anthony, Tiffany Anthony, was one of my surgeons, and I think had it not been for her, because it was a 12-hour surgery, 8 to 12-hour surgery. Had it not been for her and her faith, praying by my bedside, praying with my family, it was all God's design. God set it in motion. So, yeah, it was, I don't know what to say. Going through organ failure is such a hard thing because it's not a quick process. It's a very long process, and you're losing energy on the way. So what I would tell them, like I mentioned before, is to have faith. What I stood on was Isaiah 40:31. But those who trust in God will find new strength. And just that part right there was my focus. New strength, because on a daily basis I was tired. I needed renewed strength. And so those that are going through a process like this, you have to focus. You have to envision yourself going through it, but on the other side of success and actually making it through. And you have to focus on God's word. Focus on God's renewed strength, because He will provide it for you. You never know exactly how He's going to do it, and that's what I refuse to focus on. It's like, okay, well, how it's going to happen? Where is the liver going to come from? Yeah, God's got that. I need to focus on the future, the faith that I have that God will deliver me through it. So that's what I would tell anybody. You have to, it's a battle, but rely on your faith and focus on the future.
I think it's really easy to get hung up on trying to understand things that seem impossible, but God is far greater than our imagination. You know, even the biggest things that we can imagine that God may do, that we can pray for, are limiting Him in His capacity. He is far greater than anything we can understand. And so as you go through struggles, whether it's organ failure or finances or anything in life, just remember to look ahead and look up, and things will fall into place. They always do. Yeah.